Okay, I just unmuted you guys, so.
Thank you. All right.
Don't divulge any state secrets.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. They will be the oldest too.
Oh, I heard that. Are we ready to start?
Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
All of this for 2 people.
Should we start talking?
Yeah, I'm gonna run the video, but yeah.
Hey, go ahead.
All right,
So should I
Yeah,
start?
you may
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, thank you, everybody here and at other sites for coming tonight. You may think it's a little unusual how I am dressed, but this is because we have a short drama. And the short drama is going to tell you about a huge mistake that I made. You see, I used to live in Michigan. And I made a huge mistake and I retired to Arizona. And Shannon, would you be able to show the PowerPoint that shows the United States?
Sure.
It's inside of our lesson. There we go. And just so we could better understand, our unit today is about public discourse. And part of our unit is about which parts of the United States have more of something, which parts have less of something. Now, would you be able to find Michigan? Okay. And what do you use to find Michigan?
I use the Great Lakes.
You use the Great Lakes, so you can find Michigan right here.
Yep.
I retired to Arizona, and I'll point to Arizona. In fact, I retired to a city called Phoenix in Arizona. And we're going to figure out what is making me so sad about that decision. I retired to Arizona, and this is what happened. My plants died. Why did they die? Because I don't have, I'm so sorry. I don't have enough water. It's sunny all the time. For heaven's sakes. Look, I always have to wear sunglasses. And I have to have sunscreen all the time. And I'm so hot. It doesn't matter whether it's winter or summer. It's hot all the time. And just to show you, let's go to the next slide. The next slide shows you Michigan, where I used to live in Kalamazoo, and Arizona, where I now live. And this is a map that we saw in another unit, but the blue side of the map gets more rainfall enough for trees. And do you see blue over here? Only in the mountains. It's so sad. Just look. Okay, if I set this on the floor, where I live in Arizona, Phoenix gets 8 inches in the entire year. 8 inches, only this much up the yardstick. Do you know how much rain I used to get when I lived in Michigan? 37 inches, all the way to the top of the yardstick and even more. This is so sad. I need water. Arizona needs water.
Welcome, the Great Lakes girls. We are proud women of Michigan. We like our fresh water in our Great Lakes, and since God put us here, we feel we are entitled.
We should have brought our plants, because our plants are beautiful. And they're growing leaps and bounds, inches by the day from all the rain they get.
The deep green color of hers in her windowsill. I mean, I'm on my 4th water bottle today. 8-ounce glasses, maybe 16 bottles.
I can pour some. I guess I might want to share.
I mean, we've had to use our umbrellas, what, like 10 times this month?
Past 15 days.
Every
day, yeah.
And notice our clothes don't choose because we have so much water to waste.
Right.
We're real
right.
challenged.
The worst thing in the rain is our about that. All right.
So how do you propose we solve your problem?
I need water. Arizona needs water. I was hoping that, you know, you have these big lakes by Michigan. I was hoping we could move water from Michigan to places that are drier. Aren't you willing to share?
No, no.
That would be quite costly for our great state of Michigan, and I think that would significantly impact the Great Lakes water levels and perhaps the fish that live there too.
We wouldn't be able to drink it.
I mean, this is pretty fashionable. I like using it as often as possible, refilling fish. How do you propose paying?
I don't know. I just have a problem.
All right.
We're ending.
Yeah, we're living at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So our final unit, we separated public resource into a final unit, and it was one of those units that sometimes you don't always get to. But we wanted to give some suggestions and some ideas for teachers that would want to do public discourse, and also to suggest that maybe throughout the year you do it at different times. We almost are thinking also of putting this at the beginning with our foundations unit, just for ideas for being able to do public discourse at the beginning. So the unit overview, which I think you have a copy of, reviews of the lesson sequence. Looks like just the lesson. That's fine. The unit overview is set up like our other unit overviews was. And on this one, we have 4 supporting questions. But I'll go right to the lesson because that's where all the things are happening. So for tonight, we're going to go through this, and I don't think it's going to take more than an hour. And then at the end, we'll talk with you guys about suggestions for next year and what we can tweak and get ideas from you too. But the first supporting question is, what is a public issue I care about? So we'll go to that one first. And we just basically gave ways for the kids to brainstorm ideas. And we gave a whole bunch of different ideas that the kids can talk about. I would probably just have them try to come up with ideas first, and then they could add ideas. And a lot of my kids don't really know what public issues are out there. So once you start talking about some things, they may start coming up with some things. But so we listed a whole bunch of ideas, but this obviously can change from the year. And then what we suggest they do is that once they select one, or as a class you select one, is we go back to that compelling question, to come up with a compelling question about it. And then we have offered some examples of the issues and compelling questions that could go with them. So the Great Lakes water one should water be moved from the Great Lakes to other parts of the United States that are dry and that need water? And I know that could be a yes or no, but obviously they would have to provide evidence with that. Gun control, do we need gun control laws? And then the state butterfly, should Michigan have a state butterfly? And this is one that we worked with last year.
Right.
And our kids actually wrote a letter to our senator on this because Michigan doesn't have a state butterfly, so they were proposing that we get one.
Sometimes it's even fun to take community problems. For instance, we have a great deal of deer in our, lots of deer in our community that are eating up all the plants for people near people's homes and so on. So our city council is addressing it. We've had kids go and speak at those city council meetings before just to talk about their position on, I'm trying to think of the culling the deer, whether or not to cull the deer that are there. And so it can be very much a civic issue, right?
So basically picking your topic first, and we talked about you can do obviously any way you want. If you want various kids working on various topics or doing it as a class together. Often with this type of thing, I'll do it as a whole class together and kind of model, and then maybe do another one later where they can do their own. And then the second question, and these are coming right from the standards, what are various perspectives and resolutions to the issue? So finding evidence to support that issue. So the Great Lakes one, there's actually in my open book, there's a whole section about it. I don't know. Oh yeah, Jen, you would know, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole section on
It
it.
only took you about 7 minutes.
We're on it.
No, I'm just joking.
Well, we thought it's in there, and it's a great topic. And when did we do this? About a month ago that we got together and tried to do this one.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to try it with my kids. They absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yes, like we got into really heavy discussion on it. We did cite a kid-friendly search engines just for people that might need some help with making sure they're researching in the proper places. But once they get that compelling question, we wanted them to come up with supporting questions to help answer the compelling question. And we kind of made a great, for the lake one, we made a Great Lakes research guide, and this is totally open to suggestions and to tweaking and changing too. One of you guys want to talk about this one?
Sure. So kind of as we acted out with Carol and Kathy, that big compelling question, and you could even do that in your own classroom and have a couple of kiddos just to really model that point and hook them in. But we thought that was a pretty compelling question to think about based on where you're brought up, where you're born. Should that indicate that you are able to have that resource yourself? So the compelling question, should water be delivered from the Great Lakes to a dry place in other parts of the U.S. that need water? Supporting questions below could help. And we just kind of gave a few ideas. So I know Shannon did this with our class. We haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. But kind of talking about going back to the regions and even back to some of the edible math lessons in that drier West and making that connection. And even thinking about like the population of people that live in those areas. Well, why is it less? And even prior to like air conditioning and things like that, that would make a difference. But also looking at like where long-term drought occurred, maybe even talking about the Dust Bowl, and then different factors that do contribute to decreasing water levels in the Great Lakes. And that would be something to think about. And what problems would happen, kind of thinking bigger picture, if we were to try to outsource some of that water to other areas, maybe think about cost as well as detriment to the environment. And then also have them brainstorm, like, how would that even be feasible? What might that look like?
And what I ended up doing, we came up with these questions on our own, just as a guide for them. But what I ended up doing with my kids is that I didn't even show them this. I said, what questions would you have to try to answer that compelling question? And they came up with almost all of them, but then they came up with some other really interesting ones, like where else could you get water from? Because they're like, why aren't they getting it from the ocean if they're closer to the ocean? So we had to look into that, which that ended up coming up, that they're trying to take salt out of the ocean water for some areas
Find a
too.
way.
And it's highly expensive. And another kid goes, isn't there, water is hydrogen and oxygen, isn't there a way chemically to make water? And I'm like, I don't know. And we looked it up and there actually is, but it's really dangerous because it causes an explosion. But it was just interesting, the questions they had that I'll probably add to this because they came up with some really good ones. There's one other one too, I can't bring it, or explain it. But so then once they started putting I just was writing them as they were saying them, and I said, you know, it's really funny because we're working on this and look at the questions we came up with and they're about all the same ones you did. So it was fun for them to realize that and that's honestly what I want them to do. I want them to come up with the supporting questions so they know what they have to research in order to answer that component question. So then once they had that, we did some research together. And we looked at my open book. That was the first thing. I gave them that assignment, and the whole chapter is in there. They had to read it and put down ideas. And then we had found an article when we were working together with us that's really cool. But I found 3 other ones that are really good too.
Awesome.
That I added onto here. I found some other ones that were more about just the Great Lakes and diverting water to, I think, Chicago, get some water. And there was another place in Racine, I think, Wisconsin. But these are more about the Southwest and putting it there. So I did kind of a jigsaw activity with this, where I gave different kids different articles, and they had to come back and report. And we came back and got all their information from that. So then the next part was supporting question 3. What is my position on this issue? My kids had a hard time. Because there's nothing obvious. If there was something obvious, we'd be doing it.
Right.
So they're like, what do we do? And I said, well, I'm kind of going to give you 3 options. You can either, some of them wanted to say, we don't want to divert water yet, we want to take better care of our environment. Because there's things you can do to preserve water or conserve it. And so, well, I said, well, if that's your feeling, then you argue that way. And then I also said, I don't even know my stance on it. Even after all this research, I don't know exactly how I feel, because it could be, depending on the term of it, how long would we be diverting, blah, blah, blah. So I said, but here's the thing, I could take either side and find evidence for it. So that's what I want you to do. Pick a side and show me the evidence for it. So they did, and it was just fascinating. The conversation we had, and we had to work around the climate change just a little bit in Zealand. I mean, I said, whether you believe in climate change or not, we need to take better care of our planet. So we kind of left it with that. But yeah, it was fascinating, and they were really, really into it. So step 3, they had to take the position and then make a claim. And then we gave some ideas for if it was gun control, some compelling questions they could ask, some of the other ones. And then the state butterfly, we actually had the butterfly paper that one of, I think, the Grand Haven student wrote last year for an example. And I have not put any of the papers my kids wrote in here yet because we just finished on them today. But I can show you a couple that they did write. So my first one, Annalise chose to not want to divert water. So I'll let you, yeah. So we should not share the water from our beloved Great Lakes. And then her first reason is it will hurt the environment. So then she goes on to talk about the environment. Another reason is we're already losing water. So then she talks about the ways that we're already losing water. And then the last one, if the government can help make water plants to filter the ocean, that would be a third reason why we should not have to share it. So let's let the government take care of filtering the ocean. And then the other one Dakota's,
You know, Shannon, if I can butt in, this definitely points out that some of these issues are really hard to
They
figure
are.
out. It's not a yes or no or black or white, that some of these issues that we present to our government officials or ourselves are really difficult to figure
Yeah.
out a stance.
in one of the articles was talking about how it is going to totally become political.
Oh, I'm
Because
sure.
the western states will have more representatives eventually, and their representatives will vote that we will be diverting it. And they will overrule the compact that's already been made for the Great Lakes. So yeah, it was,
It's interesting.
well, and then it brings that whole government piece in. So we had to just talk about that some decisions are just based on who has more reps than other people. So that was fascinating too. And then Dakota wrote one for diverting it.
Like the titles. Stop the voting.
So he goes right to world hunger is already a problem. If world thirst will start anywhere, it would probably start in a warm and dry place like the southern part of the U.S. The U.S. is supposed to be a great country, so why can't we share a little bit of water for a short period of time? And if we don't do something, the population down south will either move up north and crowd our cities, or they will die.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then the next one, another reason why we should do this is we have enough here in the Great Lakes region, and then he gets his research in. We have 95% of the U.S. fresh water. Why can't we share a little? Some people say they'll miss the water, but can you really miss water? We only need to share it for a short period of time, and we will still be able to swim in the Great Lakes, even if they are drained a little bit. And then a final reason we should ship some of Lake Superior's waters, because it's the right thing to do. Is one nation, one group, one country, so why can't we share our precious liquid? Have you ever heard the term sharing is caring? We should prove this true by shipping water to the southern part of our nation. We as a country also value life, so we should save thousands of lives by bringing our water to hot and dry southern states. So, yeah, it brought up extremely cool conversation. And then I have some of them that totally didn't take a stand either way and wanted to go with, we need to take care of the environment first. And then I had them do counter arguments to you in that last paragraph, which they really struggled with, and I was just surprised. I'm like, well, if you're wanting to do this, what would people argue against you with? You know, think about what they would argue against. And then,
You want to also show the vocabulary?
sure, you want to do that? Mhm.
So we thought with doing this public discourse, there may be some vocabulary that kids are not familiar with. And it's short and sweet, and you guys have that as well. But if you wanted to print it on cardstock to do like any of the games, you could too. So we kind of collectively, through conversation as well as looking at some of the articles, thought these might be things to discuss. And some students will probably have heard them, but we kind of came up with definitions that we thought were kid-friendly. So we said claim, counter-argument, perspective, a political rally, position, a public issue, rationale, and a reasoned argument. So we thought those are ones that they definitely would come across and would need to have a pretty good understanding of. And we also have, you could do a little quiz trade activity with that, or the graffiti, vocabulary graffiti. So.
What I like about this as well, that it like integrates right into our writing and reading curriculum. I mean, it overlaps so nicely. You
Which
can do things-
Lucy, wouldn't that be nice for her to know that we have other stuff we could write about? That's what I'm trying to push in my
Right.
research. Like, we don't look at social studies at all. It's always reading and writing,
Right.
and math.
But there's so much
There is.
and we need to use it.
And that's what's
Yes.
fun for kids, and that's
Right.
what makes sense. So this last stuff is taking action, like where would they really go with this if they really were serious about it, and I haven't even thought about that yet.
I think one piece going back to the butterfly letter, because we were able to take action on it last year because it was actually currently in the House and Senate,
Right,
correct?
bill was being
So Kath kind of took the lead on that, and we had our kids write letters, and we sent them to Senator Arlen Weekoff, and we were able to go into his office last year upon visiting Lansing. They wrote every single one of our students back, and included like personal names. So we thought that was pretty impressive, and that was a great application for them to see, hey, if I am able to share my opinion, give evidence and reasoning, and make my voice heard, you know, I will get a response, whether or not they're going to particularly side with what that student had said. They realized that their voice was powerful, and I think that in and of itself was a good lesson.
Oh, and even I said to my kids, you are the future of our country. You are the ones that are going to have to figure these problems out, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And your kids, and if the water's not going to be there in 40, 50 years, that's going to be a way bigger problem for you than me.
Right.
But yeah, so it's fascinating, and I'm just waiting for a call on climate change from a parent, but I didn't get it.
I was going to say, do you ever, in some of these situations, have they ever been prepare and do, then maybe apologize quicker? It's
That's kind of what I do,
there's
honestly.
a lot of dancing and realizing with
Mhm.
social studies.
There
And I
can
think if these people are going to go,
And that's why I
There we
always
go,
put the
you know.
precursor on that,
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
some people still don't agree with climate change or think that it's happening. There's a lot of debate on that even, but I just said, regardless of what you believe, we can take better care of our environment. And so that's kind of how I frame it, but.
Well, another thing I think that you did that's powerful is to have the kids come up with a list. Because if you could
Right.
say it was kid generated.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and these are the issues that the kids see as very relevant to today.
They
to their
always have
lives.
better ideas than I do, honestly.
Right, but then that can be a way for us to talk to parents about it as
Yeah.
well. These were not initially introduced by me, the students brought these up.
Mhm.
That's a really
So-
good point.
I think that's powerful as well.
And I think, Jen, your point too, 2 years ago, we looked at the Nestle water crisis. I don't know if you're familiar, but that obviously was a huge deal, and it did impact Michigan, and it ended up happening anyway. For a while, they stopped the process, and we kept watching the news every day, and the kids were really pumped, like, our letters made a difference. But we did have one parent that was apparently upset about it. So,
That this was an issue that he felt was not be dealt with in the classroom.
we only have one.
We only had one.
That is where fourth grade's so tricky.
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, because at some point the kids do need to learn how to deal with these kinds of things. And
Yes.
don't you want them to know how to deal with this sort of stuff rather than bring them into adulthood where they don't know then how to.
well, and in a professional, respectful way, where you are noticing the counter argument and looking at the
Right.
bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because I did go home one night going, oh, I hope I'm not scaring the bejeebies out of them. Like, they're thinking our country's all gonna die off from lack of water, but I'm thinking,
Right.
you know, we have to be responsible, and you are the next generation of responsible adults that need to help solve these problems. So,
And you could definitely do a talk after the kids prepare their claims and have them debate it, you know, using that accountable talk. And I see what you're saying, but I disagree because.
I'd like the parents to come in to watch the kids having. the
Oh,
discussion.
excellent
Yeah.
idea.
that would be really.
Yes,
So that they can
powerful.
see the thinking that
Yes,
their kids are not eating.
Yeah.
It's the
right.
discussion between their own children. I
And
think that's
it's-
really
Yeah,
awesome.
Well,
and-
and reply, one thing, because fourth graders don't know this, but I, as a retired person, I moved to Arizona. I'm one of many people who moved to a dry place, and just because I moved there, I am now demanding water. Is that right? Should I have stayed where I was?
Well, you made a choice.
Yeah.
You made a choice.
And that's what a lot of my kids said too. Well, too bad, then come back here if you want.
Yep.
Well, that's why they're all
But I
going to move north and crowd our city.
Yeah.
That one letter in
And
there.
I almost think it's easier when it's not a clear-cut decision.
I do too.
Because
I
then
think so.
they can take either side and,
Well, and then there's more
Which
debate
is-
happening with
yeah.
this. Because if you pick one where it's very obviously like this should be where everybody
Yeah.
knows, it's not
right.
as engaging or interactive because it's just one of those.
They don't
Here's the
have
right
to
answer
think
kind of
it's
thing.
not.
It's not pushing your thinking,
No.
right?
Yeah.
The problem with the parents who are all worried about global warming, they apparently do not understand that it doesn't matter whether it's now or in the past. The southwestern United States and the middle of the United States have always been dry.
Right.
It isn't because of global warming. It's because of the natural patterns of how the winds blow and where the oceans are. It has nothing to do with global warming. But they haven't had the fourth grade unit, so they don't know that.
Well,
Do either of you have this sheet called using accountable thought? If I should try to make you copies, because you know, these are the different stems, like, I have a different opinion of this because, do you agree with this? I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, Jen. Or, you know, just to encourage people to be involved in the conversation. I have a different opinion of this because, and so all these,
Kathy,
stems,
those are wonderful.
aren't they?
You should post them.
Just
We
link
should.
Link it right.
I got some
there.
phone on it,
could we
sorry.
do this one?
Yeah, and I brought this isn't in the best of shape, but these are both things. To add on to what you said, I'd like to say that that's why they need to learn those, and with the counter arguments, you know, no, you're wrong. No, you don't say that. You say, oh, I understand what you're saying, and I see the evidence that you presented. However, and then just to show the various things that they can, how they can disagree, but disagree politely. Because they'll have to start to see this at city hall or school board meetings or
Well,
all
people
those.
aren't calling each other names, they're trying
Right.
to be
Right,
respectful.
right, and to say, I
Yeah,
understand your position, but I disagree with that because, so.
I think those are awesome. I noticed we started using a few of them in reading beginning of the year, and I have a couple kiddos, one that consistently interrupts, but she's learning. That Kathy, to add on to what Kathy said, and to kind of do some of those segues.
Yeah.
But
Isn't that great? I mean, you want to really encourage that. And then you know they're listening to the other person as well, because they can repeat what the other person has said, because this is the evidence you provided, but I'd like to add on, or I'd like to say that I respect you for that opinion, but I disagree because.
Yeah,
And
we'll
so a
have
lot of
to
things,
link that.
yes,
do we have a little
no, but that's my.
we could take a picture.
Oh,
scan
yes.
it.
Okay, who's gonna do
I think you want to
Sure. This kind of.
and I'll post it.
Okay, that'd be great, because those are great stems, you know, to have that conversation about what we're learning. And not just turning in the essay, but actually
Yeah, I
understanding
think
it.
the discussion
I
for
do
you was
too.
better than that.
Powerful,
Because I'm thinking on the vocabulary, when you say counter argument,
right.
and we could put, this is different from,
Oh, we
Yes.
could add that on easily.
Yeah.
It's on the other one,
Yeah.
too.
yes,
So we could
we
say,
could put an
yes,
example.
although Carol says
Yes.
this or that,
Exactly.
what I think is different from what she says, because this is what I'm thinking because of this evidence. So on.
What is also interesting is, I do have a few kids that were exactly like you guys. Like Leonard and Cheryl, they don't really have any empathy for the people in the rest of the country. It's just like, oh,
beyond
the line, 'cause
They have no idea what.
so that discussion starts making them feel like, maybe I'm a little selfish,
Yeah.
you know, it gives them perspective.
We were acting.
Maybe.
We would share some.
No, I wouldn't. But it's just really.
The reading program does, we've been able to do public discourse on every section. I've read each of them.
Oh, that's
That is
awesome.
one vote why we're glad we switched, because I should have just brought some things to show how we've tried to save time, or at least use the time. I mean, there's porpoises in peril, and there's honoring tradition, you know, and why should we have certain holidays and not other holidays?
Yeah.
And so, this has probably been, this is our first full year with Ready Gen. It's the first year we've really been able to tie in reading, writing, and social studies.
There is,
Because all
we
the
have
work
Ready
we've
Gen
done
too, and there
it's
is
been
a lot
huge.
of stories,
It's
and
one-
there are a lot of stories in Ready Gen that can tie
That
in.
really can be turned in, so.
And we
you can
find
turn
it, too.
anything into a post-it
Yeah.
First,
You
we're doing
can.
King of the Parking Lot this week. I don't know if you've done that.
That's a, they love that.
And
sort
they
of-
love it,
Yeah.
and so actually, it's great about tonight, because tomorrow they're discussing, should the British public, the taxpayer that has occurred, to actually present a proper funeral for a king that's been one king for 500 years, so, there's so many ways that you can kind of express it, get them involved. It's
And
been the
it's so
best part of the year.
engaging. for
Yes.
them. If
Because
you do the right
Usually.
stuff.
With that real life stuff,
Yes.
applications that they,
Mhm.
why are we doing this? But that's-
Rather than, okay, right here,
Right,
right
and then
here,
we-
uniforms. oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Well, I'm in a private school, my kids actually really like the uniform thing, they're like, maybe we can convince you to. Like, I have no control over this, like, I don't get to decide if you wear uniforms or not, that is beyond my pay level.
Don't try to convince me, it's the other guy.
No,
Yeah.
you gotta go above my head. 'Cause I
But
can't
you
do
like
it.
to write opinion ratings on?
Yeah, we
They
do,
like
yeah,
it
and they
first?
do, yeah, because it gets them, they get to try and argue about why we should wear a uniform, because most of my kids don't really enjoy it.
Okay.
But
That's interesting.
They
That'd be
have to.
fun to do, contact. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
Do a school that has to wear a versus one that doesn't.
Yeah.
That'd be fascinating.
Fantastic. You want to do next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
that'd be really
awesome.
cool.
And do it with the school too, like we've got a couple kiddos this year, that called in a ripped, torn off of really dirty clothes every day, and we have to close that school. So they probably would like to use more, right?
Right.
Blend right in with
But
everything
yeah,
else.
exactly.
Mhm.
no.
Not a caste system, It's just-
Yeah.
That's-
Hey, wait, write that down.
Good idea. So that's what we have for that. That's something you guys are doing already.
And even though it's the last unit, as we've said, it can go all year long. In every subject, everything. Why do we have to learn a metric system, Ms. Lampin? We don't need to learn a metric system. We've got our other ways to measure.
And my kids are all over, like, why don't we do this? It's pens are so much easier.
Yeah.
Why can't we just do that? It's like, well, that's why everybody else does it.
Right,
I know, when I was yours, they told me it'd be metric, but it's.
Well, that's when I was in elementary school, they were doing a big push for metric because they were gonna switch it over and then they didn't.
We're only in one of 3 countries, I think. One
Yeah,
of 3
some-
countries that use
Not
our.
much.
No.
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanna change things.
yeah, no, it's hard to change.
Yeah.
And you're right, the writing sample. It's incredible.
A lot of the gifted and talented in the district, so they're probably.
Still.
Still impressive.
That's so
And I'm so
exciting.
used to it that I don't notice anymore. I've been in it too long, I think I'm already like,
That's very high.
not used to know it anymore.
With the Ready Gen, is it called Ready Gen?
Ready, Jen?
Ready Gen, now they have a writing component to it as well.
There's so much writing, but that is one part that's tough, that there's so much to it.
Okay.
Like, one day, you'll have one day of preposition.
Oh,
One
wow.
day, okay, and then that's one part we are enjoying, is that if you could just take one of the writing pieces and maybe make that your real focus, like, that would be terrific.
You guys do the writing for Ready Gen then, or
As
do you
much
have a
as we
separate?
can, but our kids still, I mean, I
We're
don't wanna say our
still
kids,
supposed to
it's,
do a different writing program. You don't really like the right.
Oh, goodness.
the kids love the vocabulary, and then they
Yeah.
take some of the vocabulary to write some of the larger writing, but we still don't get to everything.
Right, there's
It's
so much.
25 minutes for writing. It doesn't work all the way, but it's still a lot better from where we were.
Yeah.
At least with this program, I think we have a little bit more liberty to actually put more products and things in. It's not in the lessons. We're gonna
And we
put them in there.
have a fun program on first and spring,
We've talked about, yeah.
which I like that.
Is Ready Gen like mentor text or the legal?
That's a very good. Oh. We're back to a big one.
When I was in Naples, Collier County, and they're a pretty good district, they did, a basal as well, and then they did like iReady, which was like an online reading program that had phonics, comprehension, all of that, and you had a certain amount of hours they had to log in.
And that's right.
Yeah, it's just not.
But then, no, it's
Oh.
preparing for a test.
Yeah.
Yeah. You thought these, but you
I
thought.
still like reading works, just the old fashioned reading workshop, or the reading on books, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be. Right, they're more passionate.
So that, and then the rest of the time, we're just gonna talk about the rest of it, what you guys would suggest, I mean.
We didn't, I think we didn't pass this out yet.
Oh, that.
Yeah, and I could try.
Do you guys wanna take a break a minute? Sure. So you think a quick break? It's kind of just the other eyes. Don't have to worry about.
If you're happy to, let us know.
Leave it already.
Okay.
And if others, friends are not showing up, I would think if you.
Oh, yeah.
I can then pass them on instead of just
You want
running
me
the
to-
copies with you two. and
Do
you
we
need
have to be
Pass
recorded
them
now,
on.
or can
Yeah,
we
at
just all sit at a
school.
table?
Yeah, that would be.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right.
Do we have to be
Okay,
recorded?
that's all you- okay.
Because she's been recording us, but I wonder if we could just all sit at the same table and take a look at this.
Oh,
That would
sure.
make sense.
I could try to move this over. I don't know if anybody else is listening.
I don't think so. We haven't had anyone tap in.
Because that was pretty useless, me breaking up laughing.
It's not really nice to talk.
No, I thought it was great.
That
was funny,
though. Yeah.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I might do.
You know, with your life that you've had this past, you need time to laugh.
Poor,
Definitely.
poor Phil, I had an absolute meltdown.
No, I'm
And then we
getting
have
the
more
full,
drinks out there too, for New England.
oh, yeah. And the full stuff.
Are you? Oh, geez, I'm let it.
I might stop my throat, but at this point, I don't think it's gonna matter much. You're not really gonna retire to Arizona, are you, Bill?
Oh, never, ever.
Oh, icky. I know it's great for some health purposes, like dry heat or something. Imagine that.
Other people, especially rural Minnesota, Arizona,
Oh,
and they're actually in, there are these clubs where Minnesotans get together.
how cool.
And have like dances. It's
And
the
Lucas.
Minnesota Union.
And,
And I knew this because.
lefse, some nice
You know,
lefse recipes, maybe. No lefse.
And
Okay.
yeah, well, yeah, the Norwegian, yeah. But, I had a student from rural western Minnesota, which is kind of like the UP.
Sure, it is, yeah.
And her dad ran a newspaper that was delivered every week. It was a weekly newsletter. And there would be people in Arizona who would have a Arizona column in the weekly newsletter. And so they would be reporting that.
It's another man. Yeah, go take your break, take your break. I just think that's so, I would have no trouble with tiring of Minnesota. Like, I kind of like it, right?
But we are thinking maybe of ultimately retiring to Minnesota, but
It's
Are
beautiful
you,
there.
like not immediately.
No, it's beautiful
But
there.
we retired to Kalamazoo. Now who retires to Kalamazoo?
And now Tibia, I think,
That's true, but we
Yes.
retired to Kalamazoo because Phil's mom was sick and we needed to take her. And then she died
oh,
2 years after we moved here.
those are 2 full years, I bet.
I know.
Those are 2 full
You'll
years.
never, you never want to take back that.
Oh, no. Yes. Okay, you take a break.
I wouldn't touch that, you guys.
I know
It's
it.
like, this is kind of fun,
This is
actually.
Yeah.
It has been fun.
This is much better than New York City.
Oh, good.
Or nicer.
Oh, there was no way we were going to retire in New York City.
Fresh decaf coffee.
Oh, girl.
I'll go get it for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot, but I think you better than this.
Yeah.
It's kind of sluggy, pardon me, I'm sluggish.
Uh-oh, it's only Tuesday, young lady.
And you have to get it done because it,
I should have, recommended it to the lady that did my daughter's wedding dress.
well, I have a,
Really inexpensive.
I already get the name because I have to get another dress altered for another wedding. Yeah, Shannon, I might get the name because I'm in another
Yeah.
wedding in December.
All of Amy's wedding dress alterations, I think I don't know, they were under, I don't know if it was 100 or 150.
That's not bad at
Whole
all.
wedding dress.
Oh, that's not bad at
It's
all.
like I tipped her hugely, but then no, a regular, normal, and she's really particular, like she's such a professional.
Oh, I want her
So
to
not
learn.
just like a rush.
This lady's really good. She did the dress for my brother's wedding, but just really expensive. How is your daughter doing?
Doing well. Yeah, they just, we finished up at Green Valley. So we have one more class to take in the fall.
And what is he going for
It's
again?
one program. So I thought it was pretty neat.
Okay.
But the class, he graduated already. The class he took in math was like, I think he said 55% average in the class. So several of them had to retake it, including.
What kind of math?
We couldn't get away with that.
Right,
As
like, why is
teachers,
that-
why is that
why
okay
is
for
it
the
okay for
prof to
college?
be up?
Well, and how expensive.
And they have to pay another, another, whatever cover for the cost.
Let's go, I have a friend who got a PhD in science stuff, and then he wanted to get into a major university. And that takes, I mean, that's hard to get into a major university, research and teaching at community college right now. And he, after he got that job, I was very excited because he called me and he's like, so tell me how to teach. And I'm like, I mean, and like, but I'm glad that you care about that, because a lot of college professors don't care about that. They're focused on the research or whatever else, and they're not caring about the teaching. I was like, I know everybody, I used elementary school, so keep in
And
mind.
it doesn't make sense to me though, because you're teaching at the highest level, but you don't know how to teach.
Right, yeah.
And I have
But I
that
was very
prof.
excited that he wanted to be a good teacher, and so I thought that was very nice. It was like, one phone call is not gonna I'm not gonna be able to impart my entire degree,
But that would be
Right.
cool.
but I was able to talk over some things with him, and like, they'll call me sometimes when he's like, I don't know what to do, they're not with me.
That's probably what he needs to do.
Yeah.
People call me.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
had a really good prof who did not know how to teach it. I'm like, so great. We all of a sudden go, what are you talking about?
I had a professor at Grand Valley, it's a liberal arts college. You have to take a few courses that are
Yeah.
not necessarily in your wheelhouse.
Right.
So it was a sociology of art, which actually was very interesting, and he was like an expert on the topic. But he, and no one liked him, and he didn't really know. I ended up with like an A in the class, and I was so frustrated because I had 18 credits that semester, and I could get credit, no credit. But that's the only one I did, because I knew, like, it was supposed to be hard, and I knew I had so many other things.
Right.
I got an A, and I was like, can you reverse it? Like, he's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I'll write you a letter of recommendation, but I can't reverse it. These cookies are really good, by the way. I shouldn't be eating it, but it tastes really good.
My preference is crunchy.
See, I don't like crunchy
Yeah.
donuts.
I like that too.
Real, yeah, the salty, yeah. So I like the chips and the cookie together. Oh, I love those too.
Carol, your plan, I hope that we can rewatch the video of that, because that was
We
hilarious.
were standing over here laughing so hard. Uh-huh. No, it's perfect. It was perfect.
Is it
It
recorded? or
made
is
a
it
point.
just-
It definitely made a point.
In all honesty though, where's the plant from? Michigan.
Yeah.
That's how my plant
My
was in
my
Michigan.
neighbor threw it away. I'm the one that collects all the yard waste recycling. And she threw it away, so I thought, well, I have a perfect use for her.
That's awesome.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
My dad is a crop consultant, so he's very good at growing things.
Oh, he
Yeah, but
is.
my mom
Oh.
is awful at growing things.
You better get some advice from your.
Well, they've been married for 40 7 years. And it did not.
Paid
Done
off.
run off. And so he, in about May, is growing season. It's
Oh, busy, yeah.
busy season. So my parents live in Lansing, but they've got a cottage, in Blackhawk County where I get clients are. Specialty is potatoes, potato farms in Lansing.
Okay.
And
So-
sandy soil.
Yes, yep.
Look at
And
you,
so
and you
he-
said you don't know about plants.
And so he basically moved up to the cottage and lived there from about May till October. And
Whoa.
during growing season, yep. And,
Where is Mont Tom?
north of Grand Rapids a little bit.
Okay, more,
So it's about 2 hours northwest of Lansing, but north of Grand
west
Rapids.
of-
And it, in that time from May until October, my mom is in charge of all of the plants. Like at home. Which, so they're like, well, the house plants have been weeded down to only the hardy ones who can last through the summer, and then like she's like, some of them are on their kind of their best legs, but then he'll revive them and make them nice and healthy again in May, and then he goes away, and then my mom's in charge, and then they.
I wonder if he should take him up to the cottage.
Maybe
That might be a better idea.
Some of them.
The only thing I can keep going are succulents, and then we got a bamboo plant from a student
Oh, yeah,
last year,
bamboo plants.
and that's pretty,
Yeah.
mine's growing green.
But those are hard to kill, bamboo plants.
Well, that's good.
That's nice to know, yeah.
Anybody wants aloe vera?
I love aloe.
Yes,
I've been throwing it.
They just explode out of
I'm
their plant,
taking it all the way
basically.
to Nebraska and Iowa to give it to people. It just keeps growing.
Just keep going.
I'll take them,
I
love
take
them.
it in the
Wow.
winter.
I have memories.
I have 5 pots of aloe vera and it just keeps growing.
Well, you wouldn't know it.
That is one of the plants that survives every year.
Have you ever
My mom does not
Go ahead.
have Yeah, exactly. Here's
Like
what my
they
mom
show-
does. Here's that one.
People leave them out all winter and they still come back.
Carol, my grandparents, their house in Florida, it's like a childhood memory, and they have these huge aloe vera plants, and when you would come off the beach and be a little red or sunburned, my grandma would literally bend it in half and just go like this, and it works so much better than what you can buy at the store. It's really sticky.
Right.
Yeah, it's gooey.
Did you get one of those? I built one of those out of the beginning.
I was gonna say, I think we.
I think as long as you have it in here.
This has the dates on it, but I don't know if these,
Oh.
this is something you girls have to do like a sign that in here and.
I think Mandy will sign that.
So she, based on the sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sign in every time, so.
And I always tell myself I'm gonna, put my PIC number, my PIC number in my brain.
I have it on a note on my phone.
I did that.
There you
You told me to do that.
For them, like, I
Yeah.
don't ever remember it, and then they don't have to log into the site, it's in a note on my phone.
Start. Girls, you have taken so much time to do this year. It's been crazy huge for you.
Yes.
Well, that's cool.
First year was so really tough.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
They
Like,
were
what are they
teaching it as we were making it.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't ready already.
We would love suggestions.
I would get these draft things and they would try them out and go, oh, you need to change this. And there's like the worksheets are too long and it just, you need to make changes. And that's the only way you can learn is by having kids.
Right.
You have an
Keep
idea.
that clickable map going, that's all I gotta
Isn't
say.
that
I
nice?
love they love that.
They do. They do, and it could be it could be a preliminary activity, and it could be afterwards too, but like I said, yeah.
Do you,
Comparing
are you
Right.
referring to the Michigan one? We should keep the Michigan.
But we've tried, as fourth grade, dorks, and their teachers kind of a dork. Like, we've learned that you can do like 4 factors on the map, maybe 3. That's all. It won't let you do anything other
It gets
than
too
that.
crowded. And that's
So
what
they like to see that.
They do.
But that you can do the snow, the trees, and the corn. There was one that we
they
picked on.
interfere with each other.
It doesn't show up very well, but I don't remember which one of those factors it does
I
not
think
show
the
up very
snow
well.
does not show up unless you show it against the purple background or
Oh,
something.
snow is great. I
Oh,
don't
is
think I
it?
was looking at it. I mean, yeah, there's some
Okay,
factors
we
that
need to
doesn't show
Shoot us
up
an
Oh,
well.
email if you
Yeah,
can,
we'll play an experiment and,
The Michigan one?
yes. I'll put them in
The US one is pretty fun.
one of our favorites this year.
Do you think we should put the public discourse in the first part? Or do you think that's just way too much to throw at kids?
I think for, if we, getting quality writing as my fourth
Yeah.
graders, it's not gonna have the year with the other place for it.
Yeah.
I think that they can, the way my fourth graders come in, I'm not sure that they can handle that kind of writing at the beginning of the year.
And I wonder if, just keeping it where it is, that people being aware it's there and
Talking it in where they can, I agree for second grade, I think they could talk.
I think we can do talking points of
For
it
sure, for writing.
without doing a formal writing.
Me
portion
too,
of it,
because
so.
I'm thinking, what was the Continental Congress,
Right,
right?
yeah.
That was all
There's all
discourse.
discourse.
That was all
That
discourse
kind
in the government and everything, right?
So maybe we can put like a little blurb on the unit overview by unit 4, and say, feel free to use this structure and this vocabulary throughout,
Rather
but
than-
you will probably like
Yeah.
revisit it more heavily.
kind of do your assessment of these standards at the end of the year with the more formal thing. But you
Right.
can work the writing stuff and, or the talking points.
The talking points, I think that would be, that would be really important.
And I love, for research all year this year, we make kids come up with a compelling question, and it just makes it so much deeper than this year's report about dolphins.
Right.
You know?
Or even the
What do you
people,
want
remember,
business?
your, the
Right.
way you present it with people.
Right.
Come up
And
with-
the whole point is it's debatable.
It's debatable, and that's what makes
There's
them
not
funny.
one simple answer.
Right.
Life does not have one
No,
simple answer.
exactly.
So just start.
There's different points to it that you have to really
So
consider.
what
And
you
what's
want to
supporting
emphasize
questions
is
are the
talking
great-
points for debatable questions.
Yeah. I think stuff that like really could, that could fit very easily in that beginning stuff.
It could.
And even with just the initial foundation stuff with the compelling question, kind of compelling supporting question stuff, you could start throwing discourse in with those initial
Right,
questions.
sure.
I think that
Sure
would be a
could.
very informal way to, for example, assess branches of government, right? Considering what's happening now, it's like, to revisit, is it important to have benches where each has a say? Each gets a voice. But that's.
No,
Or,
I think,
should one branch of government have more say than another one? Otherwise, it's just memorizing branch of government.
Right.
And it's really cool to do your tree because you're giving life to this notion is it's all one tree,
Right.
but different parts to it.
but the people
That's
are the
right.
roots, they're the most important piece.
Yes, yeah.
Another compelling question I ask them before we get into branches of government are, okay, so you create a country, or well, I let them all create their countries by their table groups, and I said, now you have to decide how you're going to vote, how you're going to make rules, and to let them kind of do what the US does, because that's what they're
That's what they
used to.
know.
But then, so we start getting into, okay, so if you're gonna have people in your country make the decisions, how do you pick? So trying to railroad them into, how would you do representatives or senators, and try to get them thinking about, is it by population or is it by number? Just every state gets the same amount. So I'll take an example of school. Let's say the school head of government. Do you think there should be a rep from every classroom? Or do you think there should be a rep based on how many kids are in around? And they get in a huge debate on it.
Oh, I bet.
Or
And
should kindergarten be?
right,
Oh,
should
right.
we
Do
do
they
that
know
too?
enough? Do
How-
they know enough?
How old should you be able to have a rep from? But then it lends itself into that whole debate they had and why they made a House and Senate to begin with, because they couldn't agree.
Right.
So it's just fun to I like to take things and twist it and let them come up with
I
what
think
they really
that's
have to
true.
do.
But I think even like adding some of those little blurbs in there, but so people think to do that.
Right.
For instance, how you set up claim burning questions for all of your research for any topic.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even put like
I
a
think
little
we
note
should.
in there and say this, if you set this up well, unit 1, this is going to lend itself for every other area. And accountable talking will do it.
Right, everything and anything.
Yeah.
So when we deal with supporting question 2 or even, yeah,
Just, and I think we talked a little bit about that when we presented how that can play to research.
We should put it in
I
here.
tell my
Put it in,
kids, when I was in 4th grade, I got the B encyclopedia, or the B, not encyclopedia, B encyclopedia, and they said, write a report on first spell. That's what my teacher did.
Or words.
And it's like, you have to figure it out. So
Right.
it's like the kids, you can't just research for the sake of research. You need to know exactly what you want to know to research. So the supporting questions lend itself.
I was in the group of
Great
kids,
to that.
in 3rd grade, I was in this group of kids that didn't have trouble reading. So they just sent 4 of us over to the National Geographic. Said, go read National Geographic. But this was baby boomer time, there were like 40 kids in the classroom.
I think I've still the naked pictures.
You're all done.
Wow,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Stressed.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I think we should add that.
Yeah, I do too, like in that unit 1.
Is there anything that you remember going, this didn't work very well?
Or did you add anything of your own that you thought, oh, this piece really helped?
Yeah, I had to do more, so we did the vacation planning thing, since the last time that we did it, and I had to do a lot more scaffolding with that with my kids. But they really liked it, like they were getting so offended by, they're like, what do you mean the price of plane tickets changes because of the day that I leave?
That's
reality.
That's
That's
reality.
And just how much they were, how much hotel it was, yeah. They were like,
It is.
hotels can't cost that much. I'm like, no, they really do.
Yeah.
But
And
no, a lot of my kids walk away
they
from
were
my
like-
parents have to pay a lot when we travel.
Yeah,
I'm like,
They, like, their eyes were so opened,
Yes, we did that.
but
Yeah, it
yeah,
was weird. I was looking up into the year projects just
yeah.
because my kids could use another project and then all these vacation plans came up. They're all over Pinterest. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
why did I work to make this up?
Well, yours is probably way better.
Well, that works for me, but yeah. There's a lot of them out there
Yeah,
you can
so
look at.
I had to do more stuff with him on that, because they didn't, yeah, well, and I have a lot of very low 4th graders this
Yeah,
year
mine
who
catch
are,
on quick. Like,
yeah.
as soon as you show them the website, they're
And
all
they're like,
like,
yeah.
like, hey, this is the best time of the year.
so yeah, so there were some things like that that we needed more scaffolding, but
Mm-hmm.
that's something that as a teacher you do automatically. I mean, like, if you know your kid, where your kids are, you
And
automatically
if
know
they're
that kind of
excited
stuff.
about it,
Yeah.
it feels like it's more worthwhile.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and they were
travel
very,
all the
they
time
were
too, so
very
I
excited,
know
like,
all
they
this,
loved
but I
it.
don't.
They really loved it. We're very.
They did, they were
good.
very, very engaged and
You're probably
horrified
like
at how much things cost.
Oh, yes.
And also how long because I made them, if they weren't staying in Michigan, I made them do driving and flying comparisons when they could.
Oh, that's a
fly.
great idea.
Like I did make them do both
Yeah.
to practice some of those math skills with
That's
the
a
driving.
great
stuff.
idea.
We could add that in.
So
Let's
they're
add that
like,
in. Yes.
Did you make me figure out how long it would take them to drive?
Yeah, and that was
would be
part of it
good.
too, is they were
I
like,
like
wait, it
that.
takes, because they had decided like how many days they wanted, like at the beginning, and then they, like, we were looking at traveling, and one of them wanted to go to LA, I think it was, and
Mhm.
he was like, oh, we'll drive in a day, and I was like, no, you won't, like, we let do the math out and show, and then he was like, and that was just, for people who, I mean, some of them have been all over and have seen it, but for some people, some of my kids who have not been out of Michigan,
Exactly.
you see the unit map of the United States, but you don't really understand how,
Doesn't
what that size,
register,
what
right.
that size, how that size is. And doing the driving thing and having to learn how many hours that it would take to drive that far
That would be
was
very
a very eye-opening experience for some of them, just to
That's awesome.
think about
That
that.
would be cool to be able to take them. The bus.
We talk often, like, hey, where's the magic school bus?
So we could actually.
Let's just fly the great.
Yeah. Now, were you able, when you had your kids figure out how many days it would take to drive, was there a site?
Well, so if you put in Google Maps, like it'll give you the
Yeah,
number of
yeah,
hours,
directions.
it'll give you
Yeah,
directions,
that's
and
cool.
it gives you like the
You
estimated
choose the car.
estimated time.
But-
Yes, further.
And
But
so
I'm,
then-
I'm curious about, I knew that part, but I'm curious about like the normal amount of driving people do in a day.
Well, so then that's what we talked about, we like, think about how much time you're in the car, like how much,
Right.
you know, like what you would do, and I would compare to things, like I related stuff to my life, so like my mom's side of the family is from Connecticut, so it's like when we go to Connecticut, I still go with my mom to Connecticut over my summer,
Right.
teacher, and I still have my summers, so I
Right.
can still do it.
Right,
It's like when we drive, and it takes 16 hours to drive from Lansing to where my, with stops included in that, and we
Right.
actually talk about stopping.
right.
But then,
Yes, that's what I was gonna say, that's a great conversation.
So like I talk about that, and then we talk about driving up north to like Traverse City area, and I'm
Right.
trying to equate to like the stuff that I know in my life that I
Right.
can explain to them, and then think about how long they would want to be in a car. And
Right,
how long,
I love
and
that.
when you
I have
stop
not
and
done
things
any of
like
that.
That's what I was thinking, that's
Most of them
really,
were like, I just want to fly, you know, because of the budget, but oh, I love that. To give
Yeah.
them a sense
Well,
of how
and-
long.
and
you can't
for
drive
me,
24
it
hours
was-
straight.
right,
I mean,
exactly.
that's what I'm thinking, some kids say,
It
oh,
was
just drive
doing,
24 hours.
Well,
No.
yeah, tech team.
It was practicing that, the multiplication, like doing multiplication and division stuff too, so
Right,
that gets
right.
integrated
Thinking.
into that.
Tie in the
Yeah,
math.
math of that.
Yes,
So I teach a fourth and fifth grade split, so I alternate what social studies I teach every year. So this year is fourth grade, and next year I'll be teaching fifth grade. So they got it, just not necessarily when they're in fourth. So my fifth grade, this year's fifth graders are having fourth grade social studies this year, but that's because they had fifth grade last year. So then it was also, so like my fourth graders were doing whole number stuff, so we made it whole number, but my fifth graders, I was making them do the decimals
that's
and
great.
all that.
That's a
So
great
it was
way
getting
to-
that was trying to tie more math in when I was doing it.
love
So
it.
Annika, do you type up anything additional like for that?
I did, yeah.
Would you be
Yeah,
willing
sure.
to share that?
That'd be awesome.
Application.
I would.
We might have to
go
add
back
your
and
name.
just- That might be a little activity we do that last week of school. Compare driving and flying times.
I know, that is really
Flying, They
cool.
don't realize that if you
Infographic.
drive to Chicago and then
Right,
fly,
and then
that's
you have your
very
layover and
good
jump
time,
into
too.
your thing.
I love that.
Me too, that is me.
Do I have your email addresses somewhere?
Mine is Kalnick, Kalaa. I'm not interested.
I think
Other
we did,
folder.
yeah.
If you wanna send it to Sheena, then she can send it out
Okay,
to us,
yeah.
that'd be easy.
Yeah.
So they,
Thank
that's
you for
awesome.
that, yeah.
And I'm thinking too, like, we hit decimals more at the end of the year, but
Yeah.
shoot, we
But
could
you
tie it
could tie
in
that in
earlier.
earlier.
I
Right.
love the tie-ins, the reality of it, the authentic use
Yeah.
of decimals.
Well, and it's a night, I would think if kids get so loopy during the last few days of school.
Right.
It would be a fun.
This would be.
It was a little bit away from when I had done decimal multiplication and division with the fifth grader, so it was a great review for them, and a real life review for them to like, this is why you know how to do it.
Right, that
Well, and even the
information.
gas price. you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
easy,
yes.
But you could do 297
Well,
or
yeah, I
something
mean, that's what we did,
gallon,
like,
and then they
we
have
pulled
to
for the fifth
figure
graders, we
out
pulled up on my phone and we
what
looked up
it is
what the
right
gas
now.
price
Oh,
at that
so-
moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
That,
We
that Friday.
Oh, gosh.
we have so much to do.
The draggy part, that first page. Like what competition is there and, oh, they're like,
But that's all good, for them to know,
Yeah.
that's real life application for the future too.
they still want to make competition, baseball team.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Which they can be.
Uh-huh.
We did more with coordinated credit cards this year than we have had this school. As well. So we did more CDBs with rights and responsibility as well. And I kind of tucked in Mesa stuff. I'm sorry, I did yours, but a lot of Mesa as well. That's still what we're
Right,
expecting.
Do you
The
have
district.
stuff for that book that you can send? get
Like,
into
yeah,
our
sure.
government
Yeah.
stuff, that'd be awesome.
That's weird, yeah. But for Democratic rallies, definitely. I know we worked on it at Steps office last year and.
Core values, right?
So,
That's what
yes,
they're
yes.
Yeah, core
Yes,
values.
yeah, we can't say Democratic, excuse me. Yes, you can't say
core
Democratic,
Republican
you can't say
values.
Republican.
Or core libertarian values.
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have core?
Oh, well.
Wait a minute.
That is a time question.
Don't have the time cover over your desk either, just say it.
What is it, what is
I
it?
had, just bought like the Time Life magazine with, and I take it into school. It wasn't like, hey, boy, the girl. No, I was like, da, da, da. It was like on my desk. And I was like, oh. I was like, oh, well, here's somebody that's considering running for president. Okay, we all right. That was all right. Let's move on. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that was like not even kind of just there. And I don't think it's open to any of them, but.
They're pretty,
They won't go
I don't know
home.
where.
They probably can't even say his name.
No, I know. I know. Exactly.
No, is
So,
your,
but
pretty
anyways,
conservative too?
right wing conservative, 83% trailer, honey. Yeah, you got it, sugar. So, I know you know. I know you know. So, I thought the kids are older. It was like high school. Right. Really branched out, but anyways, all that. Definitely. Back to that's we did more of that this year.
Well, and they're not going away.
No, but they kind of like it wasn't a focus for like 10 years. It seems like suddenly it's exactly back.
I remember when I was in school, middle school and high school, core democratic values being
The be all and end all, baby.
the big push.
We got a
And then,
different one every grade.
which was,
Mhm.
so I graduated high school in 2001, and then when I started teaching, it really, like, it was not the push that, and that's not what I thought.
But I'm kind of ignorant, are they agreed?
That's like the main, what the main should be. There's a lot of reference to it, that stuff. This is what
I
we
don't,
did, but
I
I don't know.
A lot of them come from Bill of Rights. right?
Yeah, that's big, that's big fifth grade.
okay.
Yeah,
Then we'll just focus on the Bill of Rights.
Yes,
That's
safe,
That's safe.
yeah.
And what you're gonna send us emphasize Democrat.
And that's basically us.
That's good.
When it's like a 1.6. Doesn't have much to hold on to. So it goes, 1786 was that one. Train roll, what did I know? 1786, that's all I remember. Oh, okay. Can I sing to you today? It's one thing you remember this year.
What did you say it was? I mean,
1787. 1786 was what he just comes up with.
Okay, just the date.
I know,
Nothing with
but
the
it's
date.
one thing. Considering he's been in like Pine Rise twice this year. In fact, he will come in and like
You can
Air,
sing as much
I'm
as
like
you
doing,
want.
you sing it,
You
baby,
bet.
whatever you want to do. So where do you girls want to go from here? I mean, are you going to like offer deeper and more next year? Or are we coming back for more?
Sure we do. We're talking assessment, but that's a big.
Ooh, yeah.
But I have a feeling there are a whole bunch of people who will not teach.
Right, you are correct.
At least
You are
that's
correct.
kind of what has happened in 6th grade. If we make a very clear assessment, it seems to be far more likely that it will be taken serious.
I would agree with that. Fourth grade as well.
And if it's kind of new to people, it's probably only fair that teachers get a clue about what, in the assessment, we are basically saying what we thought.
Right.
From the unit, right.
It gets real narrowed down.
Right.
Without the fun,
Right.
but,
It hones in,
But-
it is time
but-
to.
And my problem is I
and
like
we have
to.
no idea whether the new glitz are gonna pass. Be approved.
That makes it
too.
hard. That
That
makes it
does
really
make
hard
it
to do
hard.
anything.
Yeah.
But I think we will know on June 11th when I
Okay.
post that.
Say it again?
We'll know in June when that board meeting happens, whether they get voted up or voted. And then we have to go back and
Adjust what you have to adjust.
we may, I mean, it's.
The middle's
the
pretty
glitz
similar.
didn't change as much for fourth grade
Right. The middle,
as they
like
did
sixth,
for
seventh,
sixth. and
really
seventh.
changed. Right.
Sixth is drastic.
Oh, 6, wow.
So
really,
some
yeah.
places just got by, what they did in sixth grade was Western Hemisphere. That's what we're finding now on the Detroit side of things. They just did Western Hemisphere. And it's like, how are you gonna understand
when
all the issues in the
Yeah,
world
if you're.
that
focusing-
Iran and the US are not particularly getting along if you know nothing about
You're
it?
not going anywhere besides the Western world.
Right,
Yeah.
or that there's this immigration pressure, not just on the US,
Right.
but Africans want to go to Europe. And if you've never heard of Europe and Africa, what the heck are you going to understand about some of the most pressing issues? I mean, Brexit happened partly
Right.
because of immigration issues. Britain-
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Brexit vote happened.
Yeah.
yeah.
But or trade with China,
Or-
we've never talked about China.
China,
right.
So, yeah, because of there's a school district, Utica.
Yeah.
And Utica, the Utica sixth grade teachers have decided to select parts of sixth grade giants. Because all they've ever done is Western Hemisphere, and they think their kids should know about other parts of the world. And we do Europe and Africa, China specifically. So, I mean, they're gonna select what's most comfortable to them still. They are willing to do something different.
I think the assessment piece will get a little more buy-in. We had this downhill to fifth grade to fourth grade classes.
Right.
And we kind of debriefed with them. For maybe half an hour afterwards, and we opened up the Chromebook and kind of showed them some of this, and they seen some pieces of it. But they definitely were asking me about assessment, and they kind of articulated that in order for their curriculum director to totally buy in,
Yes.
that would be a necessary component. Because they said, oh, do you have assessment? We said, well, here are ways you could choose to assess based on what we have. And talked about like formative, summative, and, but.
Because they came when we were working with their Edmond math.
Right.
That could be an assessment.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah.
I got mine and the math plus a reflection that they wrote
Right.
was the summative assessment for that
Yes. Definitely do
section.
that, right.
But I'll bet you if we did a short paper and pencil one, I'll bet you your kids would do well on a paper and pencil one because
Right,
they did get a math.
right.
Right.
Because if we don't, I think if we don't supply a question and a possible answer, teachers will not. There are teachers who won't.
Like I think there are teachers that don't have the buy-in, so I mean, when I needed, I don't have a whole district, so I mean, scripted things back to teachers, and I think about my little school, and I do have a lot of choice about what I do.
Flexibility.
Flexibility with that, and I don't have other teachers teaching my grade, so
Yeah,
I.
that's,
really
no,
don't
you
have
can't,
that.
that's nice, yeah, just be.
So sometimes I made, so I had an assessment thing for each kind of thing that I did. A lot of it is writing. I mean, that's what I do for a lot of my assessments, that's writing, but I did some project type things or take some of the stuff that you had that were project-based, and then have them do that at the end of the reflection to
Right.
tie into it.
Right.
But I guess I have the buy-in for this, that I'm willing to do that, and you're not gonna get that across the board.
Exactly.
But if the schools aren't willing to provide the training that we need, whether fourth grade, they stay running such big changes to sixth grade, if they're not going to make it something that's imperative for teachers, well, not imperative, but, we should provide you the time and the training so that you know what you're going to do. Then, of course, we're going to go back to kind of what, I mean.
Because that's what we're comfortable with, and that's what we know.
And
There's
social
no
studies
what
is
our
often
time
broken
in
down
social
to
studies.
lots of
Exactly.
because they're not
Science.
often
Yeah.
subjects.
And
that's
the
it.
other
We
thing
just
that
have
unfortunately,
conversations through social studies and science, we have none right now.
Like the performance tasks or
If you have
something.
time,
Yes.
do it.
And I think we exist in the situation that Model Book was trying to deal with. And that is a lot of places are not.
Right.
And if you don't have a textbook to step through, what are you going to do? And so there were people who came to your fourth grade presentation at MCSS who were kind of disappointed that there was nothing ready for fifth grade. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
very hard.
It's scary. I mean, like I think about the sixth grade changes, I think about folks that are doing the social studies for like 34 years in. And it's going to be tough to make that quick switch.
Well, and it's,
I mean, even give us the training.
it's
We're
already
going to need it.
drastically changed from what it was when I did.
I mean, it's just so much. I think they still have you with books, and they use it for referral points, but if they provide the training, then in a free time, you're gonna go with kind of what you can access quickly, so if they don't make it as something that's valuable, then like, see why the assessment would be, it just, going to give teaching changing as well.
Yeah, this has to be horribly hard. If your textbooks are falling apart, what are you supposed to do?
Or outdated.
Yeah,
Especially
Yeah.
with social studies, it seems like so many things have changed.
And see, the things that you guys do, I might be able to do. I have the time to do some research and pull something
Right.
together for you to complete. But you, all your experience, know how to turn this into a debate or an exploration. Or like the map. You know how we did slavery versus slave owners versus. Yeah.
Aren't they that, so I know.
And I would envision assessments that have big ideas on them, not always in multiple choice answers.
Well, I mean,
That's
it's
where
But,
we're headed, more performance based.
but
We
we
are
don't like to grade those, so
Yeah.
that's where I would.
But yeah, in sixth grade, so when we do a short of assessment, there's short end. I mean, there's pick the right answer from
Multiple
each four, multiple choice. But then we did short answer. So we have to say, well, this short answer, example of short answer would be 0, this would be 1 point.
You'd have to create like a
We
program.
have to
So-
grade all of that, and that's very
That's
time.
what-
It is.
It takes us at least 3 hours sometimes to do 2 questions.
Oh, yes,
Right.
yes,
You have to keep changing.
yes,
How a kid think about it.
right. And are we using the right terms here? And will this take them down a different path because of the way?
And did we really teach what we had?
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Right,
You're talking me up separators.
yes.
That was just really very apparent today with our math curriculum and how it does not match
Half of what,
a large portion of what was
I-
Those core values for social studies, not kids, right? You're those core values.
But you know what you get paid if your question
For the M step?
It just blows my mind. We couldn't even retire and just make this step question.
No.
But the problem is, you have to supply the wherewithal for the teacher to teach the question you
And
ask.
create a worthwhile question that actually is applicable. Yeah.
And it's, I find like the fifth grade, I mean, you're used to fifth grade.
Yeah, so I go back and forth.
But the
between
old
the grade stuff.
standards for fifth grade, they have a lot of, you need to know this man and this man
Yeah.
and this man.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's like, is
Yeah.
this what we really want
Yeah.
to know?
Exactly.
I
Do a
That
Google
bothers me,
search
that's,
right
so
now.
I was, my
I'd rather know
undergrad
core
was
values than that.
Yeah.
history, and I'm like, it's not about memorizing
Right.
history dates, that's not why you should study history, that's not the point of it. It's not hitting those big important ideas when you're just, when it's about memorizing people, that's not. That's
And that's how the questions that are on M stuff, from what I've seen. A lot of them.
And I was thinking, like, our curriculum as a whole doesn't lend itself to a multiple choice answer. Like, that's not the
That's not what
approach
it
we've
is.
got, it's a lot deeper.
Because
than
you're
that.
trying to have kids think more.
So you'd almost have to have an
You have to
assessment
be
that
the
does
short
have
answer.
more.
The
Because then that
performance
brings it down.
task.
I mean,
It is.
I think we do show that kids are able to use vocabulary.
Yeah.
They understand.
They have to answer a bigger question easy.
The math, I
But
think they can.
but I really think
Yeah.
we are developing skills.
Yeah.
And that's the whole
That's
point
the
of
important
C3.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, that's a real shift.
That's not the easy, but that's not the easy thing
That's
to
not
accept.
easily testable.
The Amadale teachers, they did give us feedback in the sense that they would walk around and ask their kids, so what's a region? Well, it's when things are close and similar. Well, can they change? Oh, yes, it's all according to what kind of things you're looking for in the, you know, so they, I said, so, when you were at,
How do
they are.
happen?
It went, I think it went
It
really
went
well.
really well,
It
and
was
that's what
fun.
their comments were to us, is that, whoa, the kids really know this. Yeah, like the growing season, well, it's longer growing season down here, because it's warmer temp, and it's wetter over here on this side of the
Well,
United States.
they had to defend why they put things where they
It
did.
was so cool, they made us look so good.
I had, well, the one
We did
looking
that.
the map didn't make me look very.
But it was really neat how they were saying, because the teachers said they really know their their geography, they really know their geography. And so, I was, you know, when you see that, I just think, and the kids are fired up and both of those things. that
Those
they
are the
really
kids,
know
I'll zoom
it
in on
and
the
they're
map.
excited, you know?
One thing we did differently this time, which I think was,
You had blank maps too.
Yeah,
it was
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
No, this time we ordered the other ones, that last year was too easy, because they had the bonus right there. And they were smaller.
So go that way, there's maps of kids.
Maybe to drive to San Francisco or something.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
why,
then
but
you
I
can
wonder,
just
if
go that way to see.
I wonder if there's a site that says the average
Oh,
amount of time people drive per day, like, is
got
it
the
10
Yeah.
hours? Because, you know, some people will drive 20 hours, some will drive 5.
Oh, that is
I know,
Yeah.
I think that conversation, that's why I asked her about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can send my new pictures. Yeah, if you wanna,
I love the rivers.
these guys even made a
What are
little
the
map.
rivers made of?
I think
Clay, it looks like clay.
Or is it Airhead?
Airhead.
Blue
Yeah,
Airhead.
Airhead.
Oh, how fun, I
They
didn't
even made
think
their
about
own
that.
map.
Hey,
Yeah,
put
zoom in on the map.
blue earheads, we gotta have that. You know, we keep coming up with.
Well,
those
they're
every
pretty
year.
intricate.
So if you wanna scroll through, just scroll.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I know, I was wrong, and then
I
they didn't
have
want
to-
everything, they didn't want everything covered, so they made their own
Yeah.
map key, and they identified
they
what
love
each
that.
layer represented.
Yeah, so feel you can
And
scroll.
look at the
And I
other-
told you that they did like
Or they wanted to
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
the rock
nice.
you know, the Sierras, and so they had decided that they were gonna separate it by adding that.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love it. And they, some of the kids did math games too.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Did you have some of your kids?
Yeah, a couple of mine did that.
Isn't
too,
that
yeah.
fun? Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah.
I
Some
like
were
the blue
messier than
earheads.
others.
That's fine.
Yeah, but they really
They
wanted to
still got
describe
the main
everything.
idea.
What is that?
Oh, look at the cards.
And stuff that you
And they just remembered that.
Oh,
yeah.
soda, right?
Yeah.
So
We
you
had
are like,
like
Is it a
there's
plastic?
maybe, and there's birds growing silver, I don't know how much color those are.
I know.
Yeah.
Gotta work on it.
But there is we just drove by the food or something. Did that come ribs?
You
Yeah,
could
but
see some other
You
cheese.
could.
Yeah, you would send me that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know
Oh, I gotta
what
check out the
that's- yeah.
candy aisle, and they were really gung ho to get it.
Then we did that. But the fun thing was.
Oh my
the
gosh.
parents had things
Oh,
that
yes.
they really didn't
And
want
that,
to
you
eat.
know,
That's
when
why
they tie
because
that back, because that's
not
where, when they cut down all the forests in Michigan,
Oh, yeah.
that's where they went.
Some of the
So we
different
could tie that in.
They
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I gotta see this.
I mean, you
Yeah,
can
I
still
bet
throw
the
their-
marshmallows were snow in the other part.
Yeah, you can throw, I mean,
All the blue that you just scattered through a lake.
Well, did you specify what each one was supposed to?
No.
We didn't either. We just
I
said,
had a table with. stuff
here are
out,
the stuff, here are the
And,
things.
I mean, they had to come to me to get it, because I was like, they're not taking an entire box of that
Yes.
table. But you use what you want for what you want.
yes, they had to justify. I think
Yeah.
one thing I didn't do last year, but we did this time, we had the kids, like one of our protocol prep training, we had like full strips cut, or they could cut them, and we gave them like 2 minutes, and we said, brainstorm anything you think is necessary on your map that someone would need to know, but you need to be able to defend why you have it on there. And so they did like Rockies,
Oh, I
Sierra
like
Nevadas,
that.
and like whatever else they thought.
Yeah.
So they had things on their map. They shared that they did it last year because
Right,
we
they
approached
did.
it differently and said, what do you think is necessary based on what you've learned?
Right.
What do people need to know?
Yeah, so I didn't give them a list of what they had to put on their map, like that was all what they came up with.
Us too.
For the day.
We had like
Pretty
some
much
suggestions.
afterward, yeah.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. And we didn't say the green coconut is for the grass, people that use the color.
Yeah, I just had it out and they had to decide what they wanted. I think I gave them about 10 minutes before they started working on making it to come up and look at all the things and just to make a plan.
To
before they-
determine?
because I was like, hey, before you start, you need to think about it a little bit so that you have an idea of what you're gonna use. For that, and then they
That
wrote.
might be upside down. We did budget. Cause I like the way.
And yeah, so then afterwards, like they wrote a pair, like there was a writing assignment they had to do explaining their map and why, what regions
Some are
they,
pretty good.
what things
Some
they
are messy.
represented and why those are important to know and like.
See, that reflection
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
powerful,
It's, this
Yeah.
is
so
How
powerful.
many kids do you have?
So this year I had 4th and 5th grade combined, I had 17.
Oh, that's so
Nice.
nice.
I-
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Right. Next year, this year's 3rd grade class, the next group of children, so next year, 13 kids.
Oh
my
my
gosh.
gosh.
You know,
Awesome.
they might be a little bit off,
Well, you know what?
we're not
Enjoy
measuring their
that.
accuracy
Enjoy
in millimeters, it's the general
Thank you.
idea.
Yeah.
They could explain why they put
Yes.
things where they did.
And that's so neat that they got, you know, I think some of them use marshmallows for snow.
Which is
Very
fine.
cold.
Right.
Fine, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I told Carol, they were really gung ho about making the long wet growing season also.
Oh, that was
bad.
bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, we learned.
Yeah, you gotta have that. Remember those maps that showed. Here's the nation map.
It's good. I mean, and there's stuff like this that's so nice is because you can really see what the kids have learned from that.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying it rather than thinking another task.
One of the conversations about that Water West was, you know, I said, there's rainforest. So do they have parrots? I said, do you think they have parrots there? Do you think they have swans? I don't think so. Why not? So it does,
Yeah.
it does.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Temperate versus tropical.
The redwoods.
So that was a good discussion too. Well, what animals would be there? Well, what animals would be there? You
The
know, so
most slimy,
Oh, I'm sure.
The banana slugs.
Banana slugs
The
are
big
like
banana
this.
Are in the
slugs.
temperate rainforest in Washington, really?
Yeah.
They're beautiful, they're like,
Oh,
they
how
are
nice.
so
They
beautiful,
do.
come on.
Visible slime trees.
That's not true. It is.
Have you guys
It's
been
not
to the
true.
North Cascades in Washington?
No.
Been there?
I never been
That's somewhere. Oh, the North Cascades.
There's snow on the top in summer.
East of Seattle.
That's awesome.
Whatever that place.
Take
Maybe
lots
you
of
need to, like,
pictures.
carry your suitcase.
Wow. I
Game
know.
on.
What is it, snow quality? Have you been there? I guess
Where is that?
that's just yeah.
It must be in that area.
That's what I'm thinking. My nephew was just there
To
too.
Washington a long time, a lot of times, but I've never been to. All right.
Okay, anything else? You guys are full of good
Yeah.
ideas. No, you are.
You guys are full. No, we feel it,
Amazing.
so.
You got your plenty aside. You got your plenty aside.
Yeah,
I
that's pretty
just
awesome.
lost my 29th this week. I'm like,
Oh, shucky. Oh,
miss you. Push and pull. Push and pull factors. Here we go.
Could've gone a few months ago, that's all right.
If you hear about the Oak Ridge kid, it's like, what? Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes the social media app of, yeah. The headbutting actually, it's, yeah. Yep. So, don't fall for it, yeah. It's just some of it, you know. Oh my gosh. So pretty. I skipped. How cool for those kids.
But again, you could even do a public discourse on that.
Yeah, class size.
I mean, or even even the idea of,
Invite this.
even the idea of, Facebook and different things put on Facebook. I mean, you could do a whole different thing. You could do a whole public discourse on that. Should there be some sort of screening process in place for what people put on Facebook?
Yes, there should.
But you know what I mean? Some people would say, no, that's my freedom of speech. So it's in, oh, I think that would be a great.
Because you have to put a driver's.
Oh, I like that.
You know? It requires a lot more than decaf.
Well,
Some of these-
Stealing their spirits. But thank you guys for
Yeah.
always being so positive.
Positive,
and, yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You're our loyalist, right?
That's true.
There you have,
Earlier I was here. Prom night. I
Oh,
came on the
no.
first. I was so excited. I came on May 1st.
you keep going, too.
Good, I needed the wrong one.
Did you go to Target or something when you were in there?
What company are you?
Oh, just. Nor 30 minutes. No, yeah, I'm just pointing it to.
Whatever direction.
It, I was like, oh, I needed to drive, that was nice. So,
Are you still in Kentucky?
I don't know, I'm in Muskegon, Oak Ridge still.
Okay.
So it's, yeah. It was a nice time.
Okay.
Cody guy was great.
Oh, he's so nice.
He's so nice.
I'm like,
Stuffing the beer on the way
3 weeks
home.
early.
3 weeks early. Oh, I was like, oh my God. But you probably rushed like you're.
I did, I drove like.
The kids, by the way, really liked having the towel that they gave us the last time when we started talking about the steel industry stuff. They were like, they really liked seeing them and holding them. So they really enjoyed that, hands-on.
What's that?
Could I get your email? What I can do, we're gonna go through Escanaba and just, you could just scoop up Not gonna tell her.
I'll be up there
Oh,
for a weekend,
yes,
so
'cause
I
we're
can-
You think
Awesome.
she gets excited about dead plants? You should
It was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's what I'm finding, like, the
Oh,
kids
that
really
was
like
And-
tulips.
And if I ever settle my sister's estate, it really is nice to have real cotton.
Oh, but we were just saying.
We, the kids, like,
I'm
all
gonna-
3 classes, they got to like touch it, feel it, hold it, and like really try to comprehend and understand like how labor intensive that would be and like how painful as well.
So just, I mean, I will bring you all the taconite pellets you ever want.
Now, does sugar
Just not
cane,
enough to sink.
rot?
You can buy dried sugar.
I mean, in the canes, can you get that anywhere? Because I just read a book called Sugar, and it's all slavery on a sugar cane.
It's
like-
that is the worst,
But
that is
that's
the worst slavery.
I
That-
know.
Oh, yeah, that is awful.
I know, but that's what,
It's probably about the Caribbean mostly. And
it's Louisiana.
It's southern Louisiana.
Exactly, that's where the
And,
story
and
is
a
set.
little bit in Florida.
That's where it's set. So can you get any of that or not?
Can we get sugarcane?
Because you're probably not going
When I've
that
been on
far.
vacation, no, I've seen it for sale. It's like wrapped in plastic.
Okay. I know, can you get that anywhere? Because this little girl that read it recommended it about me.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
probably
She was,
get-
she
I'm
was
true.
so, she was so, and because they talk about how her hands would get all cut up and
Cut up.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst kind
Yeah.
of slavery, the big tobacco.
People, and see, most of the immigrants in New York City as of 1970 were from the Caribbean. Once you got Spanish-speaking immigrants from Puerto Rico, then you got from the Dominican Republic.
So the answer is yes, you can buy fresh sugar.
I was talking
you
about.
can buy everything on Amazon.
You can get 5 pounds of it for $22.51. There's probably other.
That's as much as
Back
you might get state.
Bring
Dang,
back the
tomorrow.
It's only like about $16.
I'm
No.
such a sucker for books for my kids too. I'm like, I'm sorry, that for you.
Right, which one?
Oh, and whatever. If they're like in a series, it's like, do we
Yeah,
have this
yeah,
one? I don't,
yes.
I'm like, I think it's
I know the
one.
kids know me, they're at the first set of classes book orders, because I do this book class, so my 5th graders, I had them last year as 4th graders, and so I know what they like to read, so
Right.
my first teacher order in their book orders was based on stuff that they liked. And then the 4th graders this year were like, well, will you do that for us? I was like, yes, as soon as you let me know what you like, and I will absolutely get books that you want. I was like, I just know what they want, like, because they were with me last week.
Amazon, you can buy those used ones. You don't have bought or
The book Sugar is good. Very good. And then, Eleanor, she recommended me. But, then is it true that the Chinese brought people over, they actually took over some of the, after slavery was abolished, and the slaves could leave the plantation, the Chinese would go in? Is that true? This is, in this story, based on,
in the Caribbean.
in Louisiana, they had a whole boatload of Chinamen that came in and were actually harder working because they saw them as being harder working than the African Americans. It was interesting.
It's mostly Chinese who built the most difficult to construct
Railroad,
portion
right.
of our transcontinental
right?
railroad.
The Sierra
like a lot of
Nevadas.
side.
Yes, they did. Dynamite. Now, but I wondered about that aspect of it. Did they actually bring in, because that was written as part of the story, so I was thinking it must have
And
been.
you would think that would be
Uh-huh.
a lot.
Yes, it was, yeah. He researched it. But I've never heard that. so
Is
I read
this an unusual 4th grader who chose to read this?
Eleanor, yeah, she's more empathetic.
I mean, she's
No, in
really,
unusual in the fact
Yeah.
that she's very empathetic and
she's very perceptive of people, she's really smart.
her dad's a researcher for Northwestern.
Because
Eleanor's
not every
I
child
know,
can choose
yeah.
that.
Right, yeah.
No, I know.
She's a cool kid.
But also have the trust to share it with you. It's kind of
Right.
like, not all kids will, yeah, go to their teachers, recommend the book.
She said, I really would like you to read it. And then she'd ask, how far are you in the book?
Right, yeah. Have you
Did you
finished it
read
yet?
for 20 minutes? She didn't really say it like that. She'd say, how far is, when you gonna finish?
But she was probably making connections to what you'd already done about slavery.
Just any concept, the empathy aspect. She really has a big heart for people that don't have it, because she comes from a wealthy family. So
But she gets it, and we had our older
She
sister
does.
2 years ago, and the older sister is way more concerned about like social things
yeah,
and
Eleanor
being
is
popular as opposed to.
Well, thank you guys. You guys don't mind sending us like the things you came up with?
What, we have 3 days this week, 4 days next, or 1 day.
Yeah, 4 days.
So 7, 12, I haven't counted.
Oh, my word.
I haven't counted most of these, but there's so much other stuff.
Oh, that's what we're
I don't
thinking.
know how much time. I mean, I finished my plans for the rest of the year, like I know what I'm doing, but I'm like, I don't wanna think about how much
No,
crammed into that short amount of time, so I haven't counted it down
no,
yet.
because we have BAS.
It takes so long. You have to do BAS? So benchmark assessment system.
You are missing out, girl.
We call it F and P, and then we got in trouble for calling it F and P. So don't call it F and P.
We used to call it
Conscious
F
and Pinel. Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't call F and P. it's just a good trouble. I did that start.
I can see you starting it.
I didn't start.
I can see you starting it. You sure you have evidence to support that? Okay.
I will dispute the vote and for.
I respect your viewpoint, but I don't agree.
I will take a position on this.
You might call it
The bad.
DNAs and that. That ain't so good, eh, either.
That might not be so good. Hey,
Do you get really funny?
Close myself
We
out of the
could.
computer.
we could, I think our principal would actually, he said, if you want to have it, they so.
He offered, but it hasn't come to
But-
fruition.
But I think he would.
I think he would, maybe we need to take him up on it, because I don't know how we're gonna get it all done.
That's the problem when you have that many kids. Finding a chance.
Well, and then what is everybody else doing
Yeah.
during that
That's
time?
productive.
And you still want other things to get done, you still wanna be teaching, but you can't when you're.
Because you have to be.
Have you seen the Who Was series on Netflix? A little girl.
Yeah. One of my.
Have you
last year,
seen
yeah.
them? Oh
So,
my
yeah,
gosh.
well, there's, the Netflix did a series.
Like
Based
who was
on
Albert
that.
Einstein?
Yeah,
Who was-
some of the Who Was books though were a little sketchy.
Well,
I had one
some
with the
of them-
Beatles and I was like,
Oh.
it talked about like
That's the problem. I didn't know. Last grade, one of my girls came in and she's like, I haven't Henry Ford. That's what I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
She's like that.
exactly.
And she's
They're
like,
so
but she was-
good.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. She's like, maybe we could watch this sometime. And it's like, yeah,